My name is Jerry O'Neill, and my paper today is about the article with the social media impact in the transportation related industry. So, social media has got a lot to do with new opinions and such, but my technical field happens to be in the background of logistics and technology. So, my field that I've been working in for the last 11 and a half years is in the logistics side. So, there's a lot of technology booming going on right now in the field, and I have over 10 and a half years of that with Merchants Food Service as a manager with them. And I started out as a dispatcher, and I was an analyst and an assistant manager, and I also did IT work, and I did a lot of different things implementing new scanning technology when we went to new barcodes, and I did a lot of information with them. But with Airgas, I'm doing something similar. I'm also in the logistics side and distribution, but also have an IT field that's being utilized there locally for the facility. So I have an associate's degree in electronics technology, also have an associate's degree in computer networking, and I have at least an A+ certification. I've been working on getting my Network Plus certification for the last couple of years. I hadn't really taken the time to complete that. So I have a bit of a background when it comes to technology as well as logistics itself. And I've done a lot of repairs and computer related, science related stuff in my background and field. So there's been so much going on in the transportation industry in the last 10 years that technology has taken over that equipment. And with that technology taking over, we're talking about onboard computers. You're talking about a lot of things that drivers that's been with the company for many years may not be aware of or can handle. And so the technology is changing at such a pace that they're struggling to keep up. So the boomer generation is really having to get on-the-job training when it comes to technology. And with the social media impact that I wanted to cover, it helps cover some of that information from others and what kind of impact that transportation-related movement has to do with their daily lives and what kind of impact they can have with the world. So the boomer generation, they can't make it. They're actually failing at driving and having to move to another field. And you're seeing some of that when it comes to turnover. And now that you've seen a shortage in drivers in driver-related industry, not many people want to do it. So not many of my generation want to do that part. But anyways, so we're going to cover that the current generation are social media addicts. So they love to go on to social media. They love to post information. They love to put a lot of stuff on there. So that's helping with everyone else use that for the good of the world. So we can pull the information from social media and understand that the impact that some people may have in their vehicle is going to have on another person. So that has not been utilized much. So I thought this article was very interesting when I started reading about it. So for one is that the last 10 years have exploded. And as you know, with social media, the opinions of social media and the explosion have really gone up. So people are posting all of their ideas, good, bad, wrong, indifferent, other, on Facebook, Twitter. You've got LinkedIn starting to become a political posting now. So everybody wants to have their opinion expressed as often as they can and listed on these sites. So with that said, that's leading to a lot of people saying that they could pull that information and utilize it for the good of others. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that Twitter is going to be a part of this research article in general, because Twitter tends to be more of a release the information and move on. And now some of the other stuff will go into a lot more pictures and picture related stuff. So Twitter's more text based than others. So the article here focuses on that. And I wanted to go over a few things about the public opinion and the articles when it comes to the transportation related services. So public opinions, for one, has a big impact on the movement and such of everything that goes on. So I just wanted to go over some details too. So for one, this article was done in Miami-Dade County in Florida. So Miami-Dade County was mentioned and used because it's one of the most populous counties when it comes to Florida. It offers a lot for them because they have all kinds of transportation when it comes to buses. They've got trains. They've got the personal vehicles. You've got a beach nearby in many areas that you can do boats, and you have other bicycles. So there's many different options there, and it's well populated, so it's fairly easy to use. So Twitter also was a part of this as well, and Twitter is really, like I said earlier, where you can express your opinions and it be more text-based. So Twitter's very easy to pull information from, and there's a lot of people that uses it, and it's quick and easy to go through. So when you think about a heavy population state such as Florida, and you come into a heavy populated county like Miami-Dade County, you start to pull a lot more information to Twitter, and based off their history and how things are going on in the transportation related field, traffic, weather, everything that's going on with boats, because you have boating, that's a big part of that area. So the two going together only made sense for this paper. So it was a new experiment that they tested, and they built a lot of the algorithms from the ground up. So those algorithms was pulling data from Twitter based off of people's thoughts about how they felt about the traffic in any given area. So they pulled only people from that county that had that thought, and they did a lot of tweet, and they did a lot of stuff from the background, making sure that none of the other information they didn't want to hear about was not going through. So they filtered a lot of data out. So the filtering algorithms is something that they tested well before they even started the paper. And they wanted to make sure that the information would flow properly. So a lot of tests was done. In fact, they even mentioned in the article that they plan on expanding that even further from where they are. So the expansion is something that they want to take effect, that they can move on and do other research topics and go on into other things in the history. So they also decided that they wanted to potentially apply that information to other industries. So they can take the Twitter accounts that they were using and apply it to something else that's related, maybe not even in the transportation field, but just the impact that social media can have on a study can be great. So they have a lot more information that they can take out that way. Also, there's a lot of things that they filtered into their algorithms that included keywords, and many keywords such as accident and personal vehicle, boat, bicycle, anything that relates to a transportation field. They wanted that filtered into the algorithm so they can pull out all the data, extrapolate it, look at it through this computer generated information that they built. So they've got a lot of stuff that's going through that. So while they were looking through it, they also found that there's a lot of tweaks that they can make after the fact that would speed up the process even more. So during that article, they mentioned that they've started tweaking some of those filtering algorithms that they built, and they were working on making it even better than where it was before. So it would help speed up the process in the future should they do a different study or a new study based on other information that they wanted to try. So there's a lot of interesting facts when it comes to the study that they did. In fact, the personal vehicle was the most mentioned tweet that they had listed. So of the personal vehicles, most people drive vehicles to work every day, and that's still a heavy populated county with a lot of traffic, if you're aware of anything around Miami as a general. So that I-10 corridor is pretty packed. Also, accident was one of the top words, not just in general, but in general when it comes to transportation as well. So accident was a big word across Twitter in that county, so it was very surprising to them. And they were able to pull a lot of information from there that equated to happiness, which is even more surprising. So if you rode a bicycle or you had any type of boating incident, or you went out boating or canoeing, anything that involved those two were equated to happiness. So more people were happier the more they took a boat or more they bicycled. And it's got to do with the human thoughts that they're going out doing something physical, having fun, doing something different, as opposed to a vehicle where they're going to work, doing something that may or may not be as fun as the boating or the bicycling. So that information is great. I mean, it's something that's sometimes obvious, but you don't think about it until you start pulling all this information together. So other things that they wanted to put on there is that the accidents was listed as the top complaint out of everything. It wasn't that traffic was slow. It wasn't that there was some type of rush hour. It wasn't that somebody blocked them or cut them off. It was that accidents in general slow traffic, and it's slow traffic so much that they mentioned accident as the main word throughout the article. And also there's so many negative emotions tied to the rush hour time, especially when it comes to work. And you hear the horns honking, and you hear people seeing them yell at each other and such. So a lot of negative emotions there already, and then they take to Twitter to post that information that's really negative to each other. So also, they wanted to mention that in future tests, they want to try to do some type of testing for sporting events or other concerts or venues or ceremonies where they can go out and take this information to each other and test it. And so they can go to Twitter during a major sporting event and see what's going on with the traffic flow. Is the traffic coming this way or that way? And then they start pulling information about accidents, where accidents occurred, the most used word when it comes to sporting events and traffic, who's using buses and stuff along those lines. And when it comes to ways to improve and ways that they can test it better, using the information they already have and make that even better for their tests and when it comes to future testing and ways to improve. Also, the opinions can lead to next major studies, because with so many people being on the Twitter and other things, that there's a lot of opinions that go around, and they're able to take that information, understand where people want to go or what they want, and use that for the benefit of society. So we can find ways to do something differently that is negated to a happier emotion rather than a negative emotion associated with going to work in a personal vehicle. So there's a bright future in the transportation industry. It's got a long ways to go, especially with technology just getting started into the industry in the last 10 years or so. And I've seen a company that went from no technology to implementing scanning and then voice selection. And then when it comes to the transportation side, you've got computers in vehicles now, tablets that you can go in and stick it in the vehicle, and it has to be connected to that computer in that truck. So it's very interesting that things are going along those ways and moving in towards a different path than most people didn't see fit. So you've got to be able to keep up with change, and if you're not able to keep up with change, you're going to end up getting left behind in this industry, and you just don't want that. You want to be able to stay moving forward and keep going. So in conclusion, I wanted to go over the article again and some of the information that they process and mentioned about Twitter when it comes to how people feel and what they think. It's got a lot to do with emotions, and emotions drive a lot of things, and emotions drive a lot of feelings, and those emotions can be utilized for the betterment of society. Now, we want to pull that information and we want to study it even further, and that's where these researchers really wanted to take it, and writing this article was a huge step in the right direction for them, and making sure that we can do this in the future and do things that we've never done before. So while technology might leave you behind, we're trying to avoid that, and we want to give people the ability to not get left behind and move forward. So as somebody that's already fairly young, that has 11 plus years in this industry, I've seen a lot of people come and go, but I've seen a lot that really likes to stay in it. And they've learned from people that's like me, that's willing to show them and take the time to do this. And this article wants to mention stuff like that. They go through a lot of stuff, and they want you to look at the assignments that they've given out and information that they've passed along to other researchers, so that they can help when it comes for those sporting events. So when it helps when there's a big football game, there's so many people there. How can we take this negative emotion of moving so many thousands of people out at one time within the next hour or so, and get it to where there's an easier emotion tied into it, or at least getting information to where in the future, if we build new stadiums, how we can have more exits coming out, or how we can do things differently. So that information is really helpful for us in our future, and how we're going to do things differently in the future. And so right now it might not be as helpful as you think, but the more and more that we use data when it comes from social media, the more and better off we'll be as people. So technology is not going to get any older. It's always going to change. We're always going to be moving forward. We're always going to be doing things a little bit differently than we did before. So we have to start using this information for the betterment of ourselves. So the article has a long, strong focus on filtering algorithms and what they can do to gather information that can be processed and used so that we can find out what people's emotions and feelings and thoughts are. And of those thoughts, accident was at the top, while personal vehicle was also at the top. And you see negative emotions that's tied to personal vehicles and tied to work, while you see more positive notions that's tied to boats and recreational vehicles, such as bicycling. So you see two different emotions, and you see two different ways of people process those emotions through Twitter. So while this may be something that just got started, I see it going out in the future and being a great study when we go to bigger cities, bigger than the Miami-Dade County area, and you get more information, more people, and you can get more process from them. So I expect it in the near future to be something great. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.